Today, we will talk about the interest coverage ratio. The interest coverage ratio is a debt and profitability ratio used to determine how easily a company can pay interest on its outstanding debt. Lenders, investors, and creditors often use this formula to determine a company's riskiness relative to its current debt or for future borrowing. The interest coverage ratio stands for the length of time for which interest payments can be made with the company's currently available earnings. It is calculated by dividing a company's earnings before interest and taxes by its interest expense during a given period. The lower the ratio, the more the company is burdened by debt expenses and the less capital it has to use in other ways. Staying above water with interest payments is a critical and ongoing concern for any company. Analyzing interest coverage ratios over time will often give a much clearer picture of a company's position and trajectory. The desirability of any particular level of this ratio varies by industry, and should be evaluated to others in the same industry. For example, if a company's earnings during a given quarter are $625,000 and its debts upon which it is liable for payments are $30,000 every month, the interest coverage ratio here would be $625,000 divided by $90,000, which equals 6.94. This indicates the company has no current problems with liquidity. Two somewhat common variations of the interest coverage ratio are important to consider before studying the ratios of companies. These variations come from alterations to EBIT, EBITDA, and EBIT. The interest coverage ratio comes with a set of limitations that are important for any investor to consider before using it. It is highly variable when measuring companies in different industries and even when measuring companies within the same industry. Additionally, all debt is important to take into account when calculating the interest coverage ratio. Companies may choose to isolate or exclude certain types of debt in their interest coverage ratio calculations. The interest coverage ratio measures a company's ability to handle its outstanding debt. It is one of a number of debt ratios that can be used to evaluate a company's financial condition. A ratio above 1 indicates that a company can service the interest on its debts using its earnings or has shown the ability to maintain revenues at a fairly consistent level. The ratio is calculated by dividing EBIT by interest on debt expenses during a given period, usually annually. A ratio above 1 indicates that a company can service the interest on its debts using its earnings. While an interest coverage ratio of 1.5 may be the minimum acceptable level, 2 or better is preferred for analysts and investors. A bad interest coverage ratio is any number below 1, as this means that the company's current earnings are insufficient to service its outstanding debt. The interest coverage ratio, or times interest earned ratio, is used to determine how well a company can pay the interest on its debts. Generally, a ratio below 1.5 indicates that a company may not have enough capital to pay interest on its debts. However, interest coverage ratios vary greatly across industries, therefore, it is best to compare ratios of companies within the same industry and with a similar business structure. Here are 4 key takeaways. 1. The interest coverage ratio is used to measure how well a firm can pay the interest due on outstanding debt. 2. The interest coverage ratio is calculated by dividing a company's earnings before interest and taxes, EBIT, by its interest expense during a given period. 3. Some variations of the formula use EBITDA or EBIT instead of EBIT to calculate the ratio. 4. Generally, a higher coverage ratio is better, although the ideal ratio may vary by industry. Hope this would help. Thanks for watching.